I showed up to the casual barbecue and found 100 guests, a DJ, and a banner that said, "Welcome baby Lucas." Confused, I checked my account. $12,000 was missing. My father smirked. "We used your savings. It's for family." I just nodded. That night, I froze every account, reversed the charges, and reported the fraud. By morning, their cards were declined, and my brother was pounding on my door. I was elbow-deep in inspection reports when my phone buzzed with a message from my dad. "Hey bud, barbecue at the park this Saturday. Just family. You in?" I stared at the screen for a second, blinking away the grit in my eyes. It had been a long week, 10-hour shifts, delayed shipments, one crew member walking off mid-pour. The kind of chaos that makes you dream about silence. A low-key cookout sounded perfect. I texted back, "Yeah. What time?" He replied, "Noon. Jefferson Park." Simple. Too simple, maybe. My dad wasn't big on last-minute gatherings. And calling it just family raised a small red flag. Still, I figured maybe he was just trying to be spontaneous. Retirement had mellowed him, or so I thought. My name's Ethan. I'm 36 and live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I manage a construction site near downtown, mostly office buildings and parking decks these days. Been doing it for over a decade now, long enough that my boots feel more like home than my apartment does. Anyway, the invite came on a Thursday, which was unusual. My dad's the 3-week notice, typed itinerary kind of guy. That's what nudged at me. But I didn't think too hard about it. I hadn't seen much of my brother recently, not since he and his wife had their baby, Lucas. They'd mentioned not wanting anything too big to celebrate the birth, no social media posts, no party, not even a group dinner. Just quiet bonding time. Which made sense. Newborns and crowds don't mix well. So when I read Dad's message, I assumed it was what it claimed to be, a simple cookout. Maybe just burgers, soda, and folding chairs under one of the big picnic shelters. I even felt a little guilty for how relieved I was. Things had been tense between me and my family for a while, mostly about money, unspoken expectations, that sort of thing. But this was doable. This was normal. I mentioned it to one of the guys on the site, Pete, as we wrapped up for the day. "Your old man grilling?" he asked. "You better go. Take the free food while it's still offered." I laughed and nodded. "Yeah, could use some time off." By Friday night, I had picked up a 6-pack of root beer, grabbed a fresh t-shirt from Target, and told myself I'd stay an hour, maybe 2. Just enough to eat, chat, and show face. Nothing about it felt suspicious. Not really. But looking back, maybe it should have. I pulled into the parking lot at Jefferson Park around 12:30, expecting to see the usual family setup, a couple of lawn chairs, maybe a cooler or 2. Instead, the lot was nearly full. People were unloading wrapped presents, balloons, even a stroller or 2. I slowed down, squinting at the crowd gathering near the community center building instead of the picnic area. That's when I saw the sign. "Welcome baby Lucas." Bold letters in pastel blue, strung across the doorway of the sports club's party room like it was the damn Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. A big grill had been rolled in from somewhere, not the usual rusty park kind, but a full stainless steel beast with 2 propane tanks. Music thumped from portable speakers set up beside a DJ table. Not a Bluetooth speaker, a full DJ. With lights. I parked and just sat there for a second, engine off, watching as someone I didn't recognize carried a stack of baby gifts inside. My stomach sank. I was in jeans and a clean tee, not fancy, but not dirty. Just regular. And suddenly, I felt like I'd shown up to a wedding in flip-flops. There had to be close to 100 people there. A few I recognized from our extended family, my Aunt Patty, Cousin Mike, but the rest were strangers. Suits, sundresses, catered platters, balloons shaped like baby bottles. It was a party. A real one. Not a casual barbecue. And no one had told me. I climbed out of the truck slowly, carrying my root beer like an idiot, and made my way inside. The music dipped for a second, and I heard someone yell, "There he is," followed by laughter and clapping. For a split second, I thought maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe this was a surprise party for me somehow. But then I saw Mark, my younger brother, standing front and center with his wife, Claire, both glowing and dressed like magazine models. She was holding Lucas, smiling like the queen of a baby-themed ball. Gift tables wrapped around the wall. People were handing over expensive bags from department stores, hugging them like they were royalty. Mark waved me over with a grin like nothing was off. "Ethan, you made it." I walked up slowly, feeling about 2 inches tall. "Hey, thought this was just a barbecue." Mark shrugged. "Yeah, Dad said you'd think that. We figured it'd be more fun this way." "Surprise." Claire chimed in. "We didn't want a big thing. But, well, people insisted." She laughed like the entire event had just happened to them. "Isn't this amazing?" I looked around again, the decorations, the gifts, the massive speaker setup. "Yeah, amazing." Then I spotted Dad. sitting near the cake table, wearing his Sunday shirt and khakis, nodding like this was all totally normal. I walked over. "Dad," I said, "what is this?" He looked up with that casual half-smile of his. "It's just a party, son. Don't overthink it. Grab a plate." I forced a laugh, but something wasn't right. I couldn't explain it yet, but I felt it, that crawling sense in your gut when something is off. And it was only just beginning. I kept a smile on my face, nodded when people said hi, even made small talk with a couple of distant cousins I hadn't seen since Grandma's funeral. But inside, my brain wouldn't stop racing. There was too much money in this room. The decorations alone must have cost a few grand. The DJ was spinning top 40 tracks like it was a wedding reception. And the food? Not hot dogs and potato salad like I expected. It was catered. Silver trays, mini sliders, lemon-infused chicken skewers, even a dessert bar. Claire doesn't even eat gluten, but there was a whole table of fancy pastries. I found a quiet corner near the back and pulled out my phone. I told myself I was just checking work emails, maybe texting Pete about Monday's materials delivery. But my thumb hovered over the banking app. Just a peek. I tapped in the password and waited for the screen to load. Available balance, $627.43. I blinked. That couldn't be right. I scrolled down to recent activity. My chest tightened as the list loaded. Line after line of charges: catering company, event rental service, balloon delivery, DJ Entertainment Group LLC. All in my name. All from my account. The total hit me like a brick. Over $12,000, drained across the last 2 weeks. My vision narrowed. The room dimmed, like all the noise got sucked out for a second. I looked back at Dad. He was leaning back in his chair with a plastic cup in hand, talking to one of Claire's uncles like nothing was wrong. I could see the tip of an envelope sticking out of his shirt pocket, probably another gift card or cash envelope he'd planned to hand off like it came from him. I put the phone away and walked back over slowly. My mouth felt dry. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did you use my card for the party?" Dad didn't flinch. "Don't be selfish, Ethan. This is for family." That was all he said. Like it explained everything. I nodded slowly. Right. The rage didn't hit me all at once. It crept in quietly, a low, controlled fire instead of an explosion. I could feel it settle into my chest, cold and steady. Mark called out from across the room, "Bro, did you try the caramel tarts yet? They're insane." I gave him a thumbs up. "In a sec." Then I turned and walked to the back patio. Needed air. Needed space. Outside, I stood near a trash can and opened the bank app again, confirming the damage. All authorized. All tied to the emergency backup card I'd once given Dad to use only if something happened. I had forgotten it even existed. I should have canceled it a year ago. I took a deep breath and opened the Notes app. Started a list. 1. Call the bank first thing tomorrow. 2. Dispute every single charge. 3. Freeze every account. 4. Pull credit reports. 5. Revoke all shared access. I wasn't going to make a scene. Not here. Not while people were cooing over baby Lucas and sipping champagne punch. But the moment this party ended, I was taking it all back. Every dollar. Every boundary I never should have let them cross. By the time I got home that evening, the sun was down and my chest ached from pretending to smile. I dropped my keys on the counter, kicked off my boots, and walked straight to the cabinet where I kept a bottle of whiskey I'd been saving since Christmas. No glass. Just the bottle. I took one long sip, then another. It burned, but it helped. My hands finally stopped shaking. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. The room was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional buzz of my phone, which I ignored. I wasn't ready to hear from anyone, not Dad, not Mark, not anyone else who'd laughed and clinked glasses while spending my money. First step, I called the bank. "Hi, this is Ethan Martin. I need to report fraudulent charges on my checking account." The woman on the line was calm, patient. She walked me through it, flagged every transaction linked to the unauthorized card. Catering, equipment rentals, DJ payments, balloons. I froze the account. Every dollar left was locked down. I moved the remaining balance to a separate savings account and shut the card off permanently. Next, I opened my credit monitoring app. 3 hard inquiries. One small loan opened in my name 3 months ago. I hadn't even noticed it before. I felt the heat rise in my chest again. My dad must have known exactly how much he could get away with before I noticed. I wasn't just angry. I was embarrassed. Ashamed that I'd handed over so much trust that I believed that just a barbecue lie without question. I pulled out an old folder from my drawer, one I hadn't touched in years, and flipped through old joint account information from back when Dad helped me co-sign my first apartment after college. I found 2 links to credit access I'd forgotten about. Gone now. Disabled. Deleted. I even called the 3 credit bureaus and set up fraud alerts, just in case. By the time the sun started coming up outside the kitchen window, I had canceled over $15,000 worth of pending payments. The caterer, DJ, and venue all received cancellation notices. Let them figure it out. Let them panic. I took another swig of whiskey and leaned back in my chair, finally breathing deep. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just clarity. They wanted to treat me like a bank? Well, the vault was closed for good. It was barely 7 a.m. when the pounding started. Not knocking, pounding. I was still half asleep, shirtless, clutching a mug of black coffee when I opened the door to find Mark on my porch. His face was red, his hair a mess, and he looked like he hadn't slept at all. What the hell, Ethan? He barked before I could even say good morning. I didn't answer. I just stepped aside and let him in. He stormed into the living room, still in yesterday's dress shirt, now wrinkled and untucked. Do you have any idea what you've done? Claire's in tears. Dad's freaking out. The caterer canceled last minute. The venue's threatening legal action. I took a sip of my coffee, calm. Good. His mouth dropped open. Good. Are you serious right now? I walked past him and sat on the edge of the couch. Mark, when were you going to tell me you spent my money? His jaw clenched. We didn't spend it. Dad said it was fine. That you'd understand. So he told you it was my card? Mark didn't say anything. He just looked away for a second too long. That's what I thought, I said. You knew. And you went along with it. He started pacing. We didn't think it was a big deal. It's family, Ethan. You're doing fine. It's not like you were struggling. And that makes it okay? He threw his hands up. We were trying to do something nice. For Lucas. For Claire. For everyone. And now it's all blown up because you had a little tantrum. I stood up slowly. You mean because I shut off access to money I didn't give permission to use? He looked at me like I was speaking another language. Let me guess, I added. Dad said he'd handle it. Told you not to ask me because I'd say no. Mark didn't answer. That's what this always was, wasn't it? I continued. You all decided it was easier to go behind my back than to hear me say no. You wanted the money, not the person it belonged to. He glared at me, his voice sharp. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. No, I'm making it exactly the size it is, I shot back. I'm done being the backup plan. The guy you only call when a check needs writing. Mark's voice cracked. We didn't mean to use you. But you did. I walked to the door and opened it. I'm not your wallet, Mark. I'm your brother. Or at least I was. He stood there, breathing hard, but he didn't move. I didn't budge either. Finally, he shook his head. You're being selfish. No, I said. I'm finally being honest. Then I nodded toward the doorway. It's time to go. He walked out without another word. And I didn't feel an ounce of regret. The next couple of days felt like walking through a digital war zone. My phone lit up nonstop, calls, texts, voicemails, DMs, all from people who hadn't spoken to me in months, now suddenly experts on what family means. The first text came from Aunt Joanne. You're lucky to be in a position to help. Most people would give anything to have that kind of success. Then my cousin Brianna chimed in. You should be proud to support your brother's family. That's what being a good uncle is about. Even people I barely remembered from childhood church picnics were popping up, dropping guilt like it was candy at a parade. But none of them asked why I was upset. No one said, hey, this sounds messed up. Are you okay? They just assumed the role they expected me to play. The provider. The giver. The guy who kept the lights on for everyone else. By the second day, I had blocked half of my contact list. My phone was quieter, but the silence felt heavy, like a storm waiting to hit. Then came the message from Dad. You've embarrassed us. Everyone's talking. I raised you better than this. I stared at it for a full minute. No apology. No ownership. Just more weight thrown on my back, like always. And then Claire, of all people, sent me a voice message, not a call, not a text. A carefully worded, overly sweet monologue. I just want you to know we still love you, Ethan. But this was supposed to be a happy time. You've really hurt Mark's feelings. Maybe this could have been handled differently. I almost laughed. Handled differently? Like secretly draining someone's account was the mature route? That night, I sat on the couch, my phone face down, and opened a fresh text window to my dad. I stared at the blinking cursor for a while before typing. Not sorry. I had sinned. Then I opened the family group chat, the one where all the planning had happened for the party I was never consulted on, and wrote. If you needed the money, you could have asked. You didn't. You stole. Don't ever contact me again. And then I left the group. Blocked them all. Every last one. I thought I'd feel bad. Thought maybe guilt would creep in during the night. But instead, I slept like a man with the weight finally lifted off his chest. Because this wasn't about money anymore. It never really was. It was about respect. About being treated like a person, not a bank account. And now, I was done playing their fool. It was a Thursday afternoon when my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, half expecting another family ambush. But it was just Dad, alone, hands in his pockets, looking like a man who didn't know where else to go. I almost didn't open it. But something, curiosity maybe, or the tiniest sliver of hope, made me twist the handle and step aside. He came in without a word and sat at the kitchen table like he used to when I was a kid, back when the worst thing he ever said was, "Get your elbows off the table." He didn't touch the glass of water I poured. Didn't even thank me. Just stared at the grain in the wood until he finally spoke. "I guess you figured it out," he said quietly. I didn't say anything. Just waited. He sighed. "Your mother used to do this kind of thing. A long time ago. Before you ever noticed." That caught me off guard. I blinked, sat down. Do what? Use people's money. Pretend it was hers. Tell me we needed it for bills, groceries, emergencies, and then spend it on parties, clothes, trips she didn't even tell me about. I leaned back in the chair, the pieces clicking together like a puzzle I didn't want to solve. "She drained my retirement account the year I turned 54, he continued. "Didn't tell me until we got a foreclosure warning in the mail. That's when I left her the first time. I hadn't known any of that. Not the full story, anyway. Why didn't you say anything?" He looked tired. Older than he had in years. "Because I hoped it would be different with you. I thought maybe, if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't end up carrying the same resentment I did." "Too late," I muttered. He gave a small, sad smile. "Yeah, I figured." There was a long pause. Then he said, "I'm not proud of what I let happen. I should have stopped it. But I want you to know, Ethan, I'm with you now. Whatever you decide to do from here, I support it." I stared at him for a moment. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't feel like I was fighting alone. "Thanks," I said. He nodded, stood up, and let himself out. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the kid who'd been left behind. I felt seen, and I knew exactly what I needed to do next. The next morning, I made an appointment with a lawyer. Not a friend of a friend or someone I found on Google. A professional, downtown firm, polished office, someone who didn't flinch when I laid out the facts like a police report. I told her everything. The unauthorized charges. The stolen funds. The emotional manipulation. The way my family had used me for years, casually, like I was part of their furniture. She took notes without blinking. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "We have options." It was the first time in weeks I felt like I had control. Within 48 hours, I'd signed a civil claim against my father for misappropriation of funds and unauthorized use of a joint access account. We added Claire and Mark to the complaint as beneficiaries of those stolen funds. My lawyer filed for a cease and desist notice to prevent any further attempts to access my finances, including a retroactive audit of any accounts they might have touched. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about putting walls between me and them, walls with locks and lawyers and consequences. When the legal paperwork was served, the reaction was instant. Mark called twice. I didn't answer. Claire sent a long email, full of flowery language about how this was just a misunderstanding and that she hoped we could come back together as a family. I forwarded it straight to my attorney. Dad tried texting me. Just one line. "This isn't how we fix things." I didn't respond. Because he still didn't get it. This wasn't about fixing anything. It was about ending it. I went through every single financial account I owned. I changed passwords. Closed old credit cards. Removed every contact, access point, emergency name, and legacy permission. Anything that tied me to my family was gone. No more just-in-case cards. No more shared bills. No more backup access. The fallout was immediate. According to my lawyer, the caterer and DJ both withdrew from payment collection. The venue filed a small claims dispute against my dad, since the rental agreement had been processed through the account I'd frozen. Let them explain that to a judge. Mark must have lost it, because I heard through a coworker's cousin, small town, big mouths, that he was losing sleep over potential legal action and furious that Ethan would actually go through with it. Good. Let him lose sleep. Let all of them sit in the silence they left me in. And as the dust started to settle, I realized something. For the first time in my life, my money was mine again. Not borrowed. Not assumed. Not quietly drained in the background. Mine. And so was my peace. A week after the legal paperwork was served, I got a message I didn't expect. It was from my cousin Josh, the quiet one. The guy who never said much at family gatherings except maybe to pass the mashed potatoes. His message was short. I saw what happened. I should have said something a long time ago. "I'm sorry." I stared at the screen for a while, not knowing how to respond. I didn't have the energy to be gracious or forgiving. But still, something about it settled in my chest. Not closure, not quite, but a strange, unexpected feeling. I felt seen. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I didn't want to open the door again, not even a crack. Instead, I packed a bag. 2 pairs of jeans, a stack of t-shirts, some sunscreen. I booked a flight that afternoon to a quiet beach town in Florida where my dad, the one person who'd finally admitted the truth, had been staying with an old friend. When I got there, he met me at the airport with a nod and a cooler full of sandwiches. We drove in silence down Highway 1, windows down, the warm ocean air washing away something heavy in my lungs. For the first time in months, I didn't check my bank account before buying lunch. I didn't scan my phone for overdraft texts. I didn't feel like someone was quietly picking my pocket. I was just a guy with sand between his toes and no one asking for anything. While I was away, my mother posted one of her classic cryptic Facebook rants, all vague phrases about betrayal and certain people forgetting where they came from. I heard from an old high school friend who saw it. Apparently, it didn't go over well. Half the family knew what she was referring to. The other half didn't care. The comment section was quiet. No sympathy, just digital dust. Back at the beach house, Dad and I drank beer on the porch and watched the tide roll in. "You doing okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Better than I've been in a long time." That night, I sat on the rental's back deck with my feet up, the stars overhead, and one final task left to do. I opened the family group chat, the same one they'd added me to for birthday logistics, baby gift reminders, and endless last-minute requests. I typed, "I'm not your ATM. I'm not your scapegoat. I'm done. Don't contact me again." Then I left the group, blocked every number, deleted every thread. And just like that, the noise was gone. The next morning, I woke up to silence, not the heavy, waiting kind, but the kind that feels like breathing after holding it in too long. I walked out to the water, and for the first time in my life, I felt free.